Hey majors, welcome to today's video, and today I've got the top 5 tier 1 decks to play in standard best of 1 on MTG Arena in this current Dragonstorm era of standard. Now these decks, there's going to be something very familiar about all these decks, that they do run around that's just the same 3 colours, which I've been doing these videos a long time and I've never actually seen that where they're just also based around Jeskai. So it's different, obviously, configuration, different types of decks, but it sort of tells you where standard is at the moment. Now, in tier 2, there is, black and Golgari range decks and everything like that, but it's very strange for me that they're not in the top 5 bracket. So without further ado, we're going to go look at to take today's decks, and these decks will hopefully get you en route to Mythic and get you those wins. Hopefully, that is the plan of sharing these decks with you today. I want to say thank you for all the support. If you really do want to help the channel out, liking the videos and commenting, just get some housekeeping that way. This really does help promote the video and gets us lots of new subscribers, hopefully, shares the videos around. And thank you to my Patreons. You can check that link down below. And if you want to get any of these cards in paper and you're in Europe, check out Cardmarket, the channel sponsors. They're the largest marketplace for cards in Europe. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on to today's decks. So the first deck we are looking at is Azorius Omniscience. This is based around this big enchantment you've probably come across. If you're a seasoned player, you're going to know a lot of these decks already and you've come across them. I'd love to know what you feel out of these 5 is your favourite and which ones you're going to play. So please let me know down in the comments of which ones you've had the best win percentages yourself with. These are all around 58% upwards for each of these 5 decks. Now this is, you may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. It costs 7 and triple blue, but never actually does cost that, because you can get this and treat it into play. You want to cheat this card into play, and then it is a combo style deck where it's just very, very hard to beat. Once one of these on the field, and generally what happens as well is then you return one to the battlefield as well, and then the spells just start costing 0, and it's just impossible to keep up with because it has some very, very powerful cards. The way you're doing this is with Abulio's Awakening. X, 3 and a white. Return target artifact or non-or enchantment card for your battlefield with X additional 1/1 counters on it, and it's a spirit creature in addition to that as well. For me, this is a very tedious deck to play against. Not to play, but to play against. It's very, very annoying. I mean, that is my personal experience from playing against it in different levels. I've seen this from silver tier to gold tier to platinum, and then, obviously it's up to mythic tier as well. But you will meet this pretty much everywhere. You think more so in best of 3, but to be in the top 5 in best of 1 as well tells you how good this deck can be. But certainly for me in best of 3, this is way, way more popular, but still super popular in BO1. When this rotates out, temporary lockdown, will the deck be as good? Because will it be able to cope with the early aggro decks? I'm not so sure, but obviously we've still got a bit of time before rotation. So lockdown is a very important card to this as well. What I love about this configuration though is that it runs 4 of the new Meringue River Regent. You can play it for the Coin and Catch, which is the instant draw 3 cards and discard card, because you do want to get the Omniscience into your graveyard, and this gives us an extra way to do this. And then you might end up with a big 6/7 flying dragon. When it enters, return up to 2 target other non-permanents to their owner's hand. So a great effect when this comes in, and then gives you another way to win games with an absolutely massive flying beater as well. Cards in there. Roiling Dragonstorm. This iteration plays 4 of these. I see some play 2 and some play 4. This one plays 4. This enters, draw 2 cards, discard a card. More ways to do the draw discard, which is what you want to be doing. Getting that into play, into the graveyard early is as best as you can by going through your deck. And this is what this deck is all about. Going through the cards. Moment of truth. Looking at the top 3. 1 into your graveyard. Others into the library. 1 into your hand. Falaji, Archaeologist, enters, mill 3 cards, may put a non-creature non-anchor from under milled into your hand. If you don't put a 1/1 counter on it, but it's another way. This deck has so much action to just go through the deck and find what you want, which makes it, super powerful. Stock up. One of the most expensive uncommons there is at the moment, especially in standard. This is going over in this country for about, I think, about £6-7. So probably about $9-10, $8-9-10, which is crazy for an uncommon. Look at the top 5 cards in your library, 2 of them in your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library. So you can literally search out what you want from your deck for 3 mana. tiny bit of counter magic in there. You've got a Confounding Riddle that can counter a spell for 4 or look at the top 4 cards. A single spell piece in this as well. I'm surprised it hasn't got more counter magic, but I suppose at the end of the day that is really just slowing the deck down against the aggro decks. You can't counter everything they're putting onto the field, so by having lockdown you clear up the early way and then you sort of try and take control of the board and find your combo as quickly as you can. But yeah, this is a very, very cool deck. An absolute rare fest, of course. None of these are budget decks. These all have a lot of rares. And if you're transporting them, sometimes I have different versions of cards that might, cause a problem when you're importing the decks. From all the deck lists are down below from my Moxfield account. Make sure you follow me over there as well to keep up to date with all my decks. And there's plenty of other decks on there. I think there's about 300 decks now. So that is another thing that I always get, that sometimes they don't import as well. But it might just be different versions of cards, like M19 version for me here. And I've got a different version here of Magic Foundations that obviously I'm not going to craft 2 more of these because I've got 2 in my collection. But anyway, this is Omni Azorius. Very good deck. Let's get on to the next one. Next up in the Jeskai iteration is Jeskai Control. Nice deck, my kind of deck, because I do like playing control deck. Again, with 4 Meringue in there. You can see this is becoming quite a popular card in the tier decks in Standard, the top tier decks. And, if you're building a mixture of the 2 decks, you've got, just a couple of overlapping cards, but nice to have the rare overlap in there. And of course, it's going to have 4 stock up this absolutely amazing uncommon card in here. But you're doing things a little bit different in here. You've got, a lot more removal. You've got 4 Get Lost in there. Helix can be actors as damage to creatures or anything. It can do obviously to the dome, to people's opponents' heads as well, which is nice. You've got 3 temporary lockdowns and you've got 3 Day of Judgment. So this is definitely more of the controlling type deck, and then you wait until the later game for your bigger creatures to come in and win is the way that you're winning with this deck. Beza, getting that life gain back, because you will be taking a few hits. This comes in, you normally will be behind on life, so Beza will gain you that life and potentially give you more creatures, and can obviously draw you a card as well. And then you got Shiko. So Shiko Peregrine Away, 2 and the Jeskai colours, a 4/5 flying vigilance creature. When this enters, exile target non-land card with mana 3 or less from your graveyard, copy it, and then you may cast it. So if they get rid of your temporary lockdown, or you've got your single 3 blind mice gone, or something like that, or maybe your Soul Guide Lantern as well, you get to put them into play again and copy it, and then cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So nice cool effect there. And can get back an early sweeper, because it's not going to affect your temporary lockdowns. If they do manage to destroy them, it's not going to affect your creatures coming back onto the field, because you've got your Beza. Might take your tokens, you've got your Shiko, and then you've got your Meringue finishing the decks as well. So we stay out the way of temporary lockdowns, which is pretty sweet. But I do like Shiko. I've not played this type of deck. I need to craft, I think, another 2 of these to give this deck a try. But it's putting out some really good results, and being that type of control deck, I do love playing control, and I generally go for blue-white, because I feel like blue-white control on its own is pretty strong. Like maybe more like the Omni, although Omni to me is more like the combo deck. It's not like full-on control. But I do feel like this deck has some, powerful cards in. One card more to talk about is the counter spell here. Counter spell unless controller pays 2, but if you've got a Dragon Beheld, the counter spell, pay 4 instead. And obviously we do have 8 dragons there ready to. So a very good counter spell in theme with the magic on this deck, without a doubt. But yeah, Jeskai, think it's Jeskai Control, feel like it's got some legs. Let me know what you think of this one. I think it's interesting. As all of them, if you want a really competitive top tier deck, there are going to be a lot of rare crafts. And I know still a lot of my budget players will be watching these videos thinking, oh my days, can we make budget versions of these? Maybe we could, but maybe it would have to be like a 10 rare or less, or 8 rare or less versions. But let me know down below if you're interested in that once you've seen all the decks. Mono red, of course, is there. Mono red, and this is just basically the standard version that you will see many of mono reds. Not much change in this version at the moment in this tier. The only thing that does change slightly for me is a single edition of Sunspine links that has been put in. Seems pretty decent, and obviously maybe for longer games players can't gain life. is very good. Damage can't be prevented, which suits this deck as well. It's a big 5/4 for 4 mana. When this creature enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that a player controls. So it could even honestly be a win condition against, you see, like the first couple of decks, they have a lot of non-basic lands in there. This with 15 mountains, 4 rock face, and just your 3 soulstorm sanctuaries as well. This is another card coming in. We'll mention this one's coming in as a little ground beater as well, so pretty sweet card. But I feel like this as a 1-drop is really good. If you're playing best of 3 with this type of deck, I'd want more of these in there. I think, in the sideboard at least. I think it's just it's got such cool effects and just a massive beater as well. But mono red does what mono red does. Not much to talk about this deck at all. Same sort of thing. It has the heroes. It does the mouse effect, where this little mouse comes in, gives stuff, targets them, gives them double strike or trample, but then you target your challenger, triggers Valiant, and then you trigger your Heartfire hero with Valiant as well. Mouse are strong in Standard, and very frustrating to play against. Sorry, I had a little waiting for server there. Monstrous Rage, card that's talked about to be banned so much. It's just such a powerful uncommon. Only second to me behind Stock Up. Some might have them reversed, but I feel like Stock Up is just, epic. But Monstrous Rage, for win capability of just winning on the spot, this one definitely wins that race, hands down. Removal, Lightning Strikes, Burst Lightnings, lots of that. Just lots of bird action, and Screaming Nemesis on turn 3 is an amazing card. I love this card. It's a really good card. Haste, attack straight one. If they have to block it, then they can't gain that life. So if a player is dealt damage this way, they can't gain life for the rest of the game, which is absolutely amazing. It just stops them and just lets you then potentially win games with your burn spells. Mono red, still super strong. Up in the tier list, up at number 3 in the tier list. But let's get on to the last 2 decks. I hate playing against this deck. I really do. It's Jeskai Oculus. Blue Oculus is normally what I play, but the Jeskai version is pretty sweet. And I just can't seem to beat it when I play against it. I literally was doing my dailies today and I was trying to get my weekly wins. And I came across this deck 3 times on the bounce. That is just rough. That was in ranked, obviously. 3 times on the bounce. I lost all 3. I was obviously clearly playing the wrong. Well, I was actually playing mono red for 2 and mono black for 1. So I thought I swapped after losing mono red twice with it. So maybe it's a deck that just beats it, or maybe I was unlucky. Let me know your experience of that. But yeah, I was losing to this coming down. I think it was turn 3. Helping Hand, returning that target creature to there. They managed to get this in the graveyard straight away, coming down. Then they just start manifesting, and it was GG's basically all over. Steam Core Scholar 2/2. I think this is a good addition to this deck as well, because it draws and discards, which is really nice, and gives you a bit of advantage to fly over the top and do a 2/2 flyer as well. So pretty sweet. This version plays 4 profits. I've seen mixtures of this playing 2 and 4. It just really depends on, if you feel like you need more numbers of something else. Like I personally, when I've played this deck, I've played the 2 version of this because I like playing an extra Winter Night Stories. I just really like this card, and I think my rare cards make it that way, but it hasn't hindered me when I've played the deck either. Winter Night Stories I think is pretty cool, and it has the Harmonise effect as well, so you can obviously do it twice. Shelter by Ghost just being a single one-off. Where this goes to 2 for me, I play an extra Shelter Ghost and a Winter Night Stories, but I've not played enough matches with my version to sort of, say it's any better than this. This one is obviously getting 58, 59% according to, the stats that I look at online. And it's, I'm not going to say stay away from this version because obviously I'm showcasing it, but, that's a little thing. If you've got, you're missing just 2 and you haven't got the wild cards to spare, you can just try that swap if you've already got those in your collection. It's just a little thing for you to try out for me. A card that also I'm surprised about, that, not surprised about, just realised how good it was Terza. This came straight into this deck because it enters, it's a 3/3 with haste, discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards, so it has the ability that you need to get Oculus into the graveyard. For 3 mana, it's really strong, and when this attacks, if there are 7 more cards in your graveyard, exile a card at random, and then you may play that card this turn. You're looking for extra attacks as well. This has Delirium. Creatures attack for the first time, only if there are 4 more card types. So it does work on, on a sort of a Delirium side thing here, where it has effects that are good effects that you can then start getting in. And when you're attacking with, you know, 5/5 flyers in the air and everything like that, you don't need many extra attacks to win games. Opponents are going to need their removal for you. Now, in the ways of countering that, you've only got a couple of spell pierce in this. I imagine in best of 3 games, you know, when these are best of 3 decks, slightly different variations, more control in the sideboard. If people are looking to do that, you'd obviously have more control in the sideboard there. But Spell Pierce, you know, looking to protect some of your big abhorrent Oculuses as well. Lots of different 1-drops here. Marauding Mako. This was a new one for CME, but it's a good early drop. Discard 1 or more cards, put that many 1 counters on it. Has cycling as well, so you can cycle through stuff. But other than that, it is pretty much the standard build. With just Help in Hand. It's not got the 3 mana. I've seen versions that also run Recommission in this as well. So I'll just show you Recommission. But it's not in this version. They do run this, which is the more of the versions I was playing against, because it returns target artifact or creature that manifests 3 or less, gets your Oculus back, and then it puts the 1/1 counter on it. And I was facing, you know, turn 3s, the Oculus, or turn 3 and 4 with a big 6/6 flyer coming at me, and that just made it really hard. So it is interesting that this version doesn't run that. I think it's just going for more, you know, more removal, Torch the Towers, Glacial Donuts, which is probably the card that's taken the place of that in this, and the Sheltered by Ghosts. So you have to sort of prioritize whether you want, you know, more reanimation in your hand. But this is the deck that's been getting the percentages as is. But I know there is a recommissioned deck out there as well. But let's get on to the last deck. And the last deck is a super popular one because it plays Corey Steel Cutter. It is Izzet Prowess. This is the deck that just keeps coming at you. Storm Chaser's talent is massive in this deck. Corey, this deck is very, very aggressive. Your removal, sometimes you're getting rid of everything, but it still manages to fight back. Once Corey Steelcutter starts getting in and the flurry starts happening, when you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 monk, it just starts getting out of hand, this deck. It's really, really good. And it's got like the aggro package to it as well, with the Monetary Swift Spears and the Slick Shots, to have a different way to keep coming at you as well, with the ever-present Monstrous Rage. And what's good about this deck, it plays both of the best uncommons. It's got 3 stock up in there as well. So this deck has, you know, utilising some of the strongest cards currently at the moment in Standard, being Storm Chaser's Talent and Monstrous Rage, Corey Steelcutter, and stock up. So, you know, you've got a powerful combination of cards in this deck, which is why I'm not surprised this is the highest performing deck at the moment when I was making this video. It is just super, super strong. And it's very hard to keep up with. It doesn't have, you know, it's not in the way of countering, but it has bouncage into the Floodmore as well. So it gives ways of getting rid of some of your creatures. Removals, Burst Lightnings, Torch the Towers. Just ways to always deal with what's in hand, and going through your deck with a great 1-drop like Sleight of Hand. And obviously this is all good for the Corey because you need to be casting those second spells. So, you know, with an absolute plethora of 1-drops, this is what's easy to do with this deck and keep churning those out. Opt as well, scry 1, draw a card, another great 1 mana instant spell. And then it's got a couple of Drake Hatcher. This is a really good card, and you know, I made them when I come across this deck. I'm trying to kill this straight as well, and I have seen this in the previous deck as well. I've seen Drake Catcher being in our previous deck, where the Vigilance of Prowess, the 1/3, you try and use your Lightning Strikes to kill it, and you know they've got so many 1 mana spells that they can play. He always gets it up to that Magic 4 toughness, which is, you know, obviously a little bit harder to get rid of. It does then get away from cut down as well when it does that, because it goes to a 2/4. Deals combat damage to a player, but that many incubation counters, and you remove 3, and you get to make a 2/2 Drake. Now, whether it stays on the field long enough to do that, but it's only in there as a 2/of. But I think, you know, it is a card that can block early, being a 1/3 and having, like I said, low mana spells to make it then that 2/4 is pretty strong blocker early on against some of those aggro decks. But yeah, I really like this deck, and I think I'm only missing, I pulled a Cost Cutter today, so now I'm only missing 2 of the old Cost Corey Cutters, so I can actually give this deck a go. So if you've played this, should I be crafting this? Let me know. It's a very high performing deck. and right at the top of the tier 1s, and for me it's one that I would like to give a try and then see how it goes. But you've got to let me know which one of these 5 decks today are you going to try. Hopefully you found a deck that you like. It is going to be in the Jeskai colours, but what's good about this, you're going to be pulling it, especially with the lands with all these decks, you're going to be having, a lot of decks that run the same land. So it's not like 5 completely different coloured decks, which is what's good about when there is certain powerful colours. You might be able to flip between 2 decks as you manage to rise up the ranks, which for me is great because I get bored playing certain decks and I like to swap and change personally. I can't, I just can't play the same deck for 75 games. Hats off to everyone that you do that. But thanks for watching today's video. I really do appreciate everyone in there. Please give it a big thumbs up, and yeah, leave me a comment down below, and I'll see you on the next one.